Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover Laval. Get out of the big city and experience a construction zone-free test drive. There is such a thing.
Episode 7 of the Standing By podcast.
Was the last episode. This is episode 8.
Off to a flying start.
Back to you.
Thank you. Episode 8 of the Standing By podcast. Terry DeMonte and Ted Bird. You can see we have a very, very, very special guest. Very excited to get going with that. And before we start, as we do on every episode, we want to tell you how grateful we are to the folks at Jaguar Land Rover Laval.
Well, we owe them a huge debt of gratitude on a couple of levels. A, they've come on board as our title sponsor for the second season in a row, have Jaguar Land Rover Laval. And B, when Terry comes into town from BC to record these, they always set us up with a vehicle. And these particular podcasts are being recorded, or this particular season is being recorded in February. And the forecast for the next 24 hours includes 15 centimeters of ice pellets and snow. And we have a Land Rover Discovery Sport. So there's a pretty good chance that there will be episodes 9 and 10. Because if we can't get here in that vehicle, no one's getting anywhere. That is a beautiful vehicle, as all Land Rovers and Jaguars are. The difference being that the customer service. That's what separates Jaguar Land Rover Laval from so many other dealerships. The customer-centric approach, it's all about keeping the customer happy, and they have a process that they go through in your buying experience and your ownership experience beyond the purchase. They stay true to that, and it starts at the top with Nino and Renato Di Cubelis and goes right on down through the whole staff. They will not steer you wrong. Get trademark, it? Steer you wrong?
Yeah, trademark
of their car guys.
Another,
steer.
Yeah, I got it. It's another family-run business that treats you like family. That's
JaguarLaval.ca, LandRoverLaval.ca.
I was thinking about our guest last night, and I cannot think of somebody who's had a more interesting journey. If life is a journey, what a journey Chris Nilan has been on. And a new chapter is just about to start in Chris's life again. And Ted said, text Chris. And I said, I don't want to bother him. He's got a lot on his plate right now. And I thought, oh, well, I'll text him and ask him, and he can just say no. And right away, yes, I'll be there. Chris Nilan, I'm so grateful to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
I was looking forward to doing this with you guys, certainly guys that I've known over the years. And, you coming out here from BC, I said, you flew all the way here. How can I not be on this thing?
God love you. I don't know where to start, but I guess we'll start with the most recent events. As you know, Ted and I have been in radio a very long time, and when you run a radio station, it's nice to have some marquee names at that radio station. And you got off to, as you admitted, how many years were you at TSN?
10.
Right. So in the first year, first couple of months, a bit of a slow, rocky start. But every single week that I listened to you, and I listened to you every day, you just got better and better and better, to the point where, as you know, you would do interviews and I couldn't get out of the car. And I would immediately text you and tell you this is one of the best interviews I've ever heard. And you were sailing along, and I thought you were a marquee player. And then suddenly, your contract isn't renewed. What the hell's going on there?
Well, it was renewed, but it was terminated. And thanks for the kind words. But I certainly, when I look back at the beginning, how brutal I was, I was always looking at the clock. I got to be out at this time, and I got to hook the next segment. I didn't know any of that. And quite frankly, the guy, Mitch Melnick, who helped me certainly in a big way to get that job, and Wayne Buse, I didn't get any help from him. It was like, go ahead, swim. It was like my father taught me to swim. He threw me out over my head, and that's it. and Sean Campbell was a big part of helping me along.
Yeah, Sean's terrific.
That. So he was awesome with me. We built a great partnership over the years, and I loved working with him. As far as what happened, I was, everybody at Bell, TSN, Bell Media was asked to be vaccinated. I had issue with being vaccinated, and the main one was certainly my health. And the second one was my freedom to choose what I put in my body. But the first and foremost was my health, and I'm not vaccinated. I'm not getting vaccinated, and they gave me an ultimatum by February 1st. I had to be vaccinated or I'd be terminated, and I ended up getting a letter from Mr. Gray saying that if I don't, because I'm not vaccinated, they're terminating me, blah, 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 blah. Thanks. And I didn't say, thanks for your 10 years or whatever. Yeah. But, listen, I don't look at it as it's nothing against Chris Nilan per se. Company had a mandate. It wasn't performance-based. I didn't say something bad on the radio. I think my ratings were fine. We had a good thing going. I think I gave that station something that they didn't have before I got there and won't have moving forward as somebody who's actually played the game. And no offense to anybody who works there or talks about the game. They certainly, a lot of guys are very capable of that. It's just, it's a little different coming from a guy who played the game.
I think you need that perspective on a sports radio station.
My favorite part of listening to you guys was when you would put those guys who haven't played the game in their place. You would let them talk and let them shoot off their mouth and let them spew their theories, and then you'd go, all right, hang on. But let them know.
And there were times I did that, but I never had the aloofness about me. Like I played the game and you didn't.
No. Never came across that way. No. Never came across that way. It was just, it was fun to listen to. How do you feel about it? Were you ready to step away?
No, I wasn't.
No. Was a medical exemption on the table at all, Chris?
Yeah, it was. Yeah? Medical exemption was on there. And, I was not ready to step away. Quite frankly, I need the money. I need a job. I'm 64 years old. Yes, I'm vaccinated. But, I'm giving up my career, my livelihood. Yeah. So from that standpoint, it wasn't an easy decision, but it was really easy from a health standpoint.
Right.
And, I researched this inside and out. I was ready almost to get vaccinated. And my girlfriend, Jamie, said to me, listen, hang on a second, look into this a little more. And I started to research it. And, I didn't listen to just CBS, NBC, or Fauci and this one and that one. I researched.
And you spoke to doctors, too.
Yeah, and I spoke to doctors. And, people that they're calling quacks, they were calling quacks a year ago, now aren't so quacky.
Right.
And I made that decision based purely on my health. And it was never reinforced more to me that I made this decision, and it was the right one for me when I was back in Boston at my father's funeral. A very good friend of mine, actually my best friend. We were talking about being vaccinated, why wasn't I? And I told him my condition. He has the same condition, and he was vaccinated. Well, last week, he had a massive heart attack.
Oh, jeez.
Called an aortic dissection, where he had clotting in his main artery going to his heart. It tore away from his heart, and he's fighting for his life. Jeez. He's been unconscious for a week, tubes on his throat. I talked to his wife last night, and she said, I spoke to him on the phone into his ear, and she, she says they don't think he's going to make it. So when this happened, again, it's crazy how it happened. All this stuff was coming down, and then all of a sudden this happens to Larry, and I'm going, this is what I worried about. Now, I'm not going to say, this was the vaccine's fault, but boy, that's one of the issues with this thing, and it's one of the main reasons I won't put it in my body.
It's funny when you think about hockey players, Chris, or even, people who are in the public eye, You know, whenever we see pictures of you, we see pictures of you with, you know, the number 32 on your back, or, you know, a picture of you in a Ranger uniform.
32?
Yeah, who's that?
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
called Lemieux.
You're thinking Mario Roberge, I was going to say.
That is a pumpkin head. Okay? Claude Lemieux, pumpkin head.
Oh my God, what a mistake.
Okay.
The number 30 on your back. And you know, we think of hockey players as eternally youthful, and we forget you're a 64-year-old man who has to think about those things.
Yeah, I do. And
Yeah.
and I got to think about my livelihood. Like I say, who's going to hire a 64-year-old, unvaccinated, beat up athlete? So, yeah, and again, I'm comfortable with my decision, and I love where my life is. I finally got my life turned around through getting sober, and you know, my life has never been better. I've never been more comfortable in sobriety than the last 5 years or so, and all my relationships in life have gotten better. My main one with the woman I love and my best friend. And no offense to my first wife, she was a wonderful woman, and she was a very good friend. But you know, I wasn't treating it that way because of what I was doing in my life, and I've changed in a lot of ways for the better. So, yeah.
We live in a time where everybody's got an opinion and everybody's got a platform to express their opinion, and you're a public figure. What was the reaction? Not only, I guess, on social media or fan reaction, public reaction to your decision. What was that, and what was the reaction of friends and family, and how has it been to deal with all of that feedback / blowback?
A lot of positivity, and you know, Jamie read a lot of it to me. I don't like getting on there and just reading every comment, and then even the good stuff, honestly. And she would read them to me. Here's a good one, here's a good one. And she said, quite frankly, about 99.5% of them were
supportive.
Positive.
Great.
Yeah,
That's good
which was awesome.
Yeah.
But, you know, I look at even the negative ones. I mean, people have their point of view. And what really bothers me, to an extent, I mean, it doesn't ruin my day, but you know, I can certainly see why people want to take it. A lot of people were put in fear. There was a lot of unknowns with the vaccine. And there's a lot of unknowns, what it can do to us in our bodies, our own natural immune system. I had COVID, so I have natural immunity, which is already proven to be 37% better than the shot, the booster, and the whole shebang. And what bugged me is people call me selfish. Like, I have a hard time believing when people went and got vaccinated that they did this for their neighbor, quite frankly, or anybody else.
Yeah.
They did it for themselves.
Yeah.
A selfish reason, for me. But some people say, oh, I did it for this one and that. Come on. You did it for yourself. And I'm doing the same thing for myself. I'm making that the best decision for myself. Now, when you talk about the selfish part, to call someone selfish, when you look at my history of protecting my teammates, and not to blow my own horn, but all the work I've done over the years for other people, for the hospital, for kids, which I still do today. So for people to say I don't care about other people, it's total ignorance. And again, I believe if people wanted to take it, and I understand their position, that it may help them, that's fine. But to judge other people for why they didn't take it, it doesn't cut the mustard with me.
My selfish reason was path of least resistance. That's why I took it. I want to be able to live my life. I don't want to have to, I can't go there, I can't do this, I can't do that. So that's selfish too.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just a different kind of selfishness.
Yeah. I can go to Costco now, though.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? How stupid it is that you can go to Costco the whole pandemic, and then, really, what are their motives? It's punishment. It's you get vaccinated or you can't go buy,
toilet
100 ounces of soap or whatever.
Right.
So
So what you're now working on to move past that and put that behind you, you're going to look into podcasting. You're going to launch a podcast, are you?
Yeah, I'm looking at doing it. We're kind of getting our ducks in a row now. We've interviewed a few people. I'm working with a guy out of Pittsburgh who produced The Last Gladiators, the documentary on My Life and a few other guys. It was about fighting and hockey. And it was done by Alex Gibney and Barry Reese. And Barry,
such a good movie.
Yeah.
If you're a hockey fan, I'm sure you've already seen it. But even if you're not a hockey fan, you should watch it.
Yeah. Well, Barry was the executive producer, reached out. He couldn't get in touch with me. He talked to so many guys, fighters. Guys wanted to get paid. Guys, they wanted a lot instead of just doing it. And when he called, he got in touch with my daughter on Facebook. He reached out to me. I had just gotten out of rehab out in Oregon, and we talked. He asked me some probing questions. I got to meet him. He said Gibney was involved. I researched it a bit. And I had nothing else going at the time. And I'm there, why not? It was actually an extension of my therapy in a sense, because I was talking a lot about where I had been, how I got there, and, what I was doing now. So it really, it was actually good for me. It was refreshing. It was, it was liberating in a lot of ways, and I had fun doing it. But Barry, when this came up about the possibility of me losing my job at TSN, he said, listen, do you ever think of a podcast? And I said, yeah, everybody and their brothers doing them, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I like to do it. And, boy, when I got let go, he reached out to me, and we talked. We started researching. He has his own production company down there. He does a lot of documentary films. He does a lot of promotional videos for college recruiting, Penn State, all these colleges and stuff. So, and he loves it. He retired. He sold his company, and it's something he enjoys doing. And he really has jumped in to this thing in a big way and given me support, quite frankly, when, and you know what, this is like, Ted, a lot of times, the situation I was in when I first got my life together and turn around, there's not a lot of people with a hand out saying, hey, Knuckles, we'll want to come, we'll help you out here. Believe me, I totally understand that. People lose trust, they lose faith in you. I get it. I have one person that really reached out and wanted to help me, and that was Mitch.
Yeah.
And now I'm in the kind of same situation again, 10 years later. And Barry Reese stepped up to the plate in a big way and really, poor Jamie, when I got let go, she said, we got to sell the car. I said, how are we going to get around? We sell the car. We're in Montreal, 3 feet of snow.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for her, but I said, listen, we knew this was a possibility. Now it's time to deal with it. We got to deal with it. It's life.
What happens to, somebody said to me, the old players don't have to worry, they have a pension. Not everybody has a pension, eh?
A pension. It's not a lot of money.
No.
So, listen, my pension's better than Gordie Howe's was. But it's not like you can live off of that.
One of the things that I've always admired you so much for, Chris, is you were always very candid about your journey, your struggle.
Yep.
Very, very candid. Did that come right away, or did that come with time?
Well, it took me a little bit of time, but I'll be quite honest with you, like I always am. And one thing brought up in my household that was touted and expected of every member of that household was to be honest. Don't lie. And my dad was so big on that. And quite frankly, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've never lied in my life, but I'm not afraid to, when I've done the wrong thing, and I've made my mistakes in life, I'm not afraid to take full credit for that. And I've always prided myself in being open and honest, and I have been throughout my life, very upfront and to me, there's no other way to be. I think, especially, life is all about relationships with the mailman, your dog, your wife, your kids, it's your boss, your coworkers. It's all relationships, and the number one thing that helps relationships be successful is trust and honesty. And you get that trust by being open and honest. And I've always been that way. So I, certainly had my times when I was in my, the height of my addiction. But I was living with that shame and guilt, which, kind of kept me in my addiction in a lot of ways. And once I was relieved of that, it was liberating. And I don't have a problem talking about it. Listen, I didn't have a problem with people seeing me in the bar, like, getting half in the rap and telling someone to go fuck themselves. So why would I, really?
Did you get any pushback from players? Because, some of the stories that you wrote that I read or you told on film, sort of tore back the curtain about, especially like in New York, right, when the game was over and then Broadway beckoned, and there did any of the players, was there any pushback from other guys saying, Chris, don't tell those?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all, because first of all, I only talked about myself. I never talked about other guys and what they did. It's no one's business. What I did when I was playing hockey, child's play compared to what I was doing when I retired and I was in the depths of my addiction. It's not, those guys had no part of that. They weren't around that. They didn't see that. Yeah. And I'm glad they didn't see it.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people saw it. I mean, I was walking around and I wasn't in a good way. I always thought I was. I'm like, people would look at me and say, geez, you kept in pretty good shape. Yeah. Go to the gym. And I wasn't going to the gym. I was all sucked up from taking opiates, and they sucked every nutrient and every good thing in my body out of it.
It should be said, I think, that Chris says that he's open about sobriety and his recovery and his struggles, but he's not preachy about it.
No,
and I think that's really important. And I've been down that road myself. I'm 25 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've always been a big believer in the anonymity aspect of the program. I mean, I'm breaking my own anonymity right here, but I mean, I figure at 25 years, if I wake up in a Laotian brothel after a 3-day blackout, that's on me. I know better by now, right? Yeah. Right. But the thing about anonymity to me is, Chris, and I don't know how you look at it, and it's tough if you're a public figure, and I'm a public-ish figure. You're a public figure. You were a National Hockey League player. The thing about anonymity to me is that why I think it's important is A, it fosters humility, and B, it protects the program. And I know this from firsthand experience. My first time around in AA, I'd tell anyone who listened, I'm in AA, look at me. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. I don't drink anymore because I'm in AA. Yeah. Guess what? I drank again. Yeah. And what does that do to AA? That makes people who don't know any better go, that fucking idiot was in AA, and look at him. Yeah. So I think that's why anonymity is important. And Chris knows how, as a public figure, to walk that line and to protect the program, as opposed to people. And you see this all the time now with social media. Yeah. Someone will have their 6-month AA chip, and they'll be on Facebook. Yeah. And then 6 months later, they're on Facebook.
Yeah. It's an accomplishment, though, isn't it? Do you look at it as an accomplishment?
I look at it like I've changed my life.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
And really, it's attraction, not promotion, right? And Ted knows that as well as anybody. I walked that fine line, and when I say that with the anonymity, it drove me away from the program when I first started. You know, I was home in Boston living there when I first tried to get sober, and you know, it's more than stopping drinking. You know, anybody. Well, not anybody can stop drinking, but you can stop drinking and not be a happy person. And
you could even be unhappier in some ways because you're a dry drunk and you're just, they call it white knuckling. Yeah. That's no fun.
And I understood in an intellectual way what I had to do, but again, it's your actions, and you got to get into action to be successful. I know I do. And when I first got in and I would go to meetings, I'd be somewhere maybe the following day, and someone would say, "Hey, my buddy Joe saw you last night down in St. Patrick's." And I'm like, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. And again, it really helped me in a lot of ways, but you know, it's not perfect either. Nothing's perfect, but it's surely been a great tool to help me change my life, and I have. And there's a lot of people who have helped me over the years, and like I said, people that attracted me in the way they live their life, and you know, they walk the talk. They don't just talk. You can see it, and when you see the results, and you can hear people in the message they send certain people, it really helps. It really helps, and it helped me change in a lot of ways. I had some anger issues, obviously, from things, some different issues with some of the things that happened to me growing up that I had to address, understand, make real, and get through them. Not get over them, not get past them, get through them. And you hear some people say you have to do the work. Well, there's pain in doing that work, and but boy, it's liberating when you get through it, for sure.
And it's never ending.
Never ending.
Chris mentioned attraction rather than promotion. Another important element is progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I hear guys in meetings say that they're a recovered alcoholic. My name's whoever, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I think to myself, well, I'm not. Yeah. And if I ever am, I'm in trouble.
ING.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
Recovering.
ED.
Yeah.
I want to turn to hockey for a little bit, and I've always wanted to ask somebody in your position this question. You know, I often will look at old films on YouTube or a particular game, or, you know, you'll see like classic pictures of Gordie Howe and Jean Beliveau in front of the net at the Montreal Forum. And I wondered, as a player, do you look back? Have you ever been on YouTube and saw something and watched it a bit? Do you reflect, or is that just the past?
If it comes up on someone tweets something out, I look at it and I go, okay, but I don't go and look at like my old fights and stuff like that. A few times I've seen people have posted the penalty shot against Winnipeg. Right. I look at that and yeah, it's cool. It's like, you know, show my grandkids and stuff like that. But no, the closest I've come to that, and I never put my stuff up in my house, any memorabilia I had, none of that. I just never did. I had a replica Stanley Cup that I kept. That was it, because that was our team accomplishment, and I thought it was so cool just to have that. And, you know, I always kept pictures in my car, in my trunk, and Bobby Orr, you know, taught me that. I was at a game in Boston in retirement, and we were in a box together, and, you know, the guy who got me into hockey also taught me another thing, and there was a little kid in there, can I get your autograph? And I'm there, sure. He gave me a little piece of paper, and I signed it. And Bobby grabbed me, and he said, hey, go back there and tell that kid to write his full name and address down and send him a picture. He said, do you ever see a framed piece of paper in some kid's room? Okay, you bastard. You got me. And he taught me that.
Wow.
So I always keep them, and last night I was out for dinner, and someone asked me if I could have an autograph for their little brother, and I'm there, sure, just write the name down. And I always get home, I sign it, send it out. It takes 2 minutes. And it's a good touch. And I remember being a kid, I wanted Bobby Orr's autograph, and it's like I never got close enough to him. I have it now, though.
That tells you something about how humble that guy is.
He's just one of the nicest people on the planet, and certainly one of the nicest people.
Don't mess with him in the business world, though.
No.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, is that right?
He's a big bad Bruin.
Is that right?
Oh. All the niceness is gone.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Business
Wow.
is business.
Yeah.
Hey? Yeah.
Not a lot of people get to experience that, and you wouldn't want to.
Yeah. Did you ever, I've always wondered this too, you ever have a moment when you were playing, like when you first start, I always wondered if players sometimes were sitting on the bench with their stick between their legs, watching the play go back and forth, and had a moment where you go, Jesus Christ, I'm in the NHL. Like, does that happen? Or is you just work so hard to get there, you don't take a moment to do that?
Yeah, I think early on I'd be at the floor and I'm like, I can't believe this. Lafleur is just coming off the ice. I'm like, there's a bastard who caused so much pain in my life.
As a Boston kid.
Boston kid. And, up until I came here, I got drafted in 78. And I was still pulling for the Bruins, 78, 79, the fourth Stanley Cup. Lafleur scored 4-3, ties the game on Gilles Jobert, couldn't stop a beach ball, bastard. And then Lambert scores in overtime. It's like, so, yeah, there were times, I had to pinch myself. And, sometimes after practice.
Yeah.
I remember, here's one specific time. It's probably... Right, yeah, into my second year. We were after practice, and I came in the locker room. We were joking and laughing, and Larry Robinson, he sat over to the left of me, and he looked at me, and he walked over. I was just undoing my skates, and we got over at something, a laugh or something. And he looked down at me, and he said, yeah, I'm looking up. There he is, the big bird. And he said, you're having fun, aren't you? And I said, I can't believe it. I love it. I love it. It's everything I dreamed of. It's everything I wanted as far as hockey. And he said, enjoy it because it's going to go like that. And I'm like, fuck off. What do you mean? It's going to, and I'm looking at him. I mean, Christ, I was 21 or so, 22. He was like 29. Yeah. I'm like, he was an old man. 29.
Yeah, and he played it, another 10 years or so?
I'm like, yeah. So, yeah, those times and, not a whole lot, I guess, during the game.
Yeah,
really, I was too busy looking at the hot chicks in the second row along with everybody else. No. Just in warm-up.
You ever have a hot dog between periods?
Never.
Okay.
Never.
I got to take a minute and say thanks to the folks from the UPS store. David Drucker and is a longtime friend of ours and called me and we talked about the podcast and he said, I really enjoy it. I would love to be part of it. Can you tell people about the UPS store? And I said, I sure can because I'm a fan and a customer of UPS stores. They are all across the land in just about every community that you can think of. They're franchised, so they're run by somebody who lives in your community who can handle anything that has to do with shipping, business. They can shred documents. They can send faxes. They can pack your stuff. They can ship your stuff. It's all a one-stop shop. If you need paper, if you need supplies, if you need copies, if you run a small business and you have to do shipping, the UPS store is where you want to do all of that right across the country from coast to coast to coast. And it really is a one-stop shop. I've used them for everything from, sending sweaters and T-shirts to friends to shipping dishes across the country when we moved to British Columbia. Highly recommend.
With so many people working from home these days, it's their time to shine, too.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
And they're easy to find, the upsstore.ca.
Chris, I'm trying to remember what your draft position was, and for some reason, 231. Is that? Have I got that?
Exactement.
I swear to God, I swear to God, I did not look that up. I'm just sitting here and thinking, I've read somewhere that he was drafted 231st overall. And when you came in, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but here's how I remember it. You came into the league and you were an enforcer. That was your job. You were, and you, let me finish before you correct me. But your career evolved to the point where by the time you won a Stanley Cup in 1976, you were on a line with two future Hall of Famers, Guy Carbonneau and Bob Gainey. So what was the evolution from being 231st overall to being on a Stanley Cup winning team on the same line as two future Hall of Famers?
Well, the evolution was I didn't come in as a fighter, right? I came in as a college hockey player. I played aggressive. My model for how to play hockey was exhibited by Harry Sinden's Boston Bruins, the Big Bad Bruins. I loved O'Reilly. I loved all the tough guys. I loved the way they, I just loved the way they played the game. And that's what I learned. I learned that from them. Now, when I played college hockey and I ended up getting drafted and I left and I came here to training camp, I was just like, I was lost a little bit. And I ended up going to Halifax. And I went to Halifax and I had a 5-game tryout for $200 a game. I didn't play the first 3 games. My first game I played was Philadelphia's farm team in Maine. My whole family came, everybody come. And the first shift I got out on the ice, I ran into a guy named Glenn Cochran. He was like 6'4", 230.
Played for the Flyers later, didn't he?
Flyer. Yeah, tough kid. And I hit him and he slashed me. We ended up fighting. Anyway, I hit him with a punch and cut him open really good. Bleeding. We get kicked out of the game. My father's pissed off, I come all the way up here. The family spend all this money on tickets. I'm like, hello? That happened, by the way, probably about Hartford, everywhere, when I finally got called up. And, he'd come in down afterwards and say, what the? And I'm like, hey, if you don't know by now, you're taking a huge risk when you come to see me play. This is what pro hockey is. But I had a contract the next day.
Oh, yeah?
Well, no, I didn't have it the next day. I was called by the general manager, Bert Templeton, who was also the coach in Halifax, and he said, hey, do you have an agent? I don't know. I don't have an agent. I didn't have an agent.
And you think that's why? Because of that fight?
No. That's why. Certainly that's why they signed me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. As soon as I beat him, because Philly, Maine, the year before, kicked the living shit out of the V's the year before in the playoffs. They spooked the shit out of them. They beat them 4 straight, beat them up, sent them home.
Ran them right out of the rink.
Yeah. They had a small team and not a lot of tough guys. And they made a concentrated effort to draft some tough guys. And I was drafted as a favor by Dickie Moore. Was a good friend of a friend, my coach down in Boston as a kid, Judge King, Paul King. They were very good friends. Judge King asked Dickie to do him a favor and just draft me. That's why I was drafted 231. It's not like they found me. Right. Judge King asked Dickie and Doug Harvey and Doug was scouting at the time, if they would do him a favor and just draft me. That's it. So anyway, long story short, signed the contract. I come up here. I had tremendous support from Claude Royal, helped me immensely in the just all the little things, all the fundamentals of the game, skating, shooting, passing, working on it every day, repetition being the key to retention, and just doing it every day and doing it. And then Lemaire came, and he told me, you fight too much, don't fight as much. And I'm like, I don't know about that. When I saw guys slow down the fight game, they're out the door. And he worked with me on agility. What he did is he refined it. He put me in positions and had me work on things that translate into success on the ice during the game. He used to put me down in front of the net, and I have to take 100 pucks, put them upstairs on my backhand, forehand. Then he'd take me and he would explain it to me. He said, the reason why we're doing this is because in the game, you're going to be in front of this net, and when there's rebounds, you're going to get that puck. The goalie's going to be down. You're going to have to get it up over him and really quick. So I want it to be a reflex action. You don't have to think about it. You grab the puck, you do it. He'd take me in the center face-off circle, and he would put the puck in certain areas, and I had to move to it. So he worked on my crossovers, my agility in reacting to where the puck is going. He did all those things, which helped me in a big way. And, you know, I often say this. I feel indebted to the Canadiens because they helped to turn me into a guy who could play the game and be out there, you know, in any situation, you know, except for maybe killing penalties because I was always in the penalty box. But and to me, that was my biggest achievement, and they helped me do that. They didn't want me. I often look back and I'd say, you know, what if I came up with Boston, or what if I came up with Hartford, or one of these other teams? They might have been just happy with me being a fighter. You know, because that's what they wanted from certain guys. Where the Canadiens, no, they wanted me to play hockey too.
What do you think? What was it Lemaire saw that he spent all that time with you? I mean, he clearly
he saw
something.
Some talent.
Yeah, he saw something.
And he always and the drive that I had, and he just knew. Like he told me that time, he told me you fight too much, and I never forget it. I was in the night he told me, and I you know. One night in Quebec City, I scored 2 goals. I remember after the second goal, he come on the bench. He said, "Don't forget where you came from." I'm there. You told me, you know. So then it turned into like I was fighting like every night. We went down to Philly, Boston. I was fighting, and we were going to play the Islanders. We played the Rangers. And I fought Barry Beck that night, and he had a cast on his hand, like a splint half cast.
Barry Beck, he was a fucking giant.
Yeah, and he caught me on the eye and cut me a little bit, and I had like a cast burn, you know, on my face. And so after the game, Jacques said to me, "Listen, you're not playing tomorrow night. We're playing the Islanders." And I'm like, "What? I want to." "No, you fight too much. I told you. You got to slow down. You know, you have people out there scared on you. You have to use the ice that you have. People won't go near you. Use that ice to score goals. Use that ice to make plays." And he said, "You got to slow down the fight." And I'm like, fuck, I almost didn't trust him with it. And I absolutely love the guy. I freaking love him. And so he said, "You're not going to play." And I said, 2 nights later it was. I said, fuck, I want to play. I don't want to not play. I won't fight if you don't want me to. I won't fight tomorrow night. That's it. And he said, "No, you're not playing." So they called up Dave Allison from Nova Scotia. And I was pissed off. So what I do when I was pissed off, I went out and I got shit-faced. Okay? I'm like, "You ain't playing me? I'm going to go wallow in my beer." And I did. And sure enough, get up the next day to pregame skate. I'm like, I feel terrible. And, apparently there was something with the timing of Allison getting called up. He couldn't play, and I had to play. You son of a bitch. But I got through the game. I felt like crap. And, you know, anyway, yeah, like that. I worked at it. And I had, like I said, I had good direction from really accomplished Hall of Fame people that, you know, it was awesome. And, you know, there's nothing like scoring a goal in the National Hockey League. And people always think, "Oh, the fight must be awesome when a fight." Like, you know, I honestly, I loved fighting.
Yeah.
People often say, who loves fighting? I loved fighting. I loved sticking up for my team. Yeah. Listen, was I scared before I went on games? Yeah, there was fear, no question about it. But I think I was more in fear of losing a fight than, like, the fight itself. I'm just, like, I don't want to lose this. And that, you know, whatever happened. And, you know, I come on, I never really got hurt that bad in a fight. A couple bumps and bruises.
But what's it feel like the next day?
Oh, it hurts.
Like
my knuckles were always messed up,
and
like they still are.
Where where Beck makes contact,
little bumps,
yeah,
you know, some on the back of your head and stuff like that. But it's, you know, you deal with it. Okay. I never really got knocked out. No. I got knocked silly with a hit once my first year in Minnesota. Fred Barrett hit me with a shoulder in the jaw, and I was like seeing the Tweety Birds. That was the only time. In a fight, I got dinged a couple of times, but not bad. Nothing that knocked me silly. And I had to fight smart. Most of the guys were way bigger than me, and, I remember I fought Jonathan and O'Reilly first game against the Bruins at the Forum. And the second fight was against O'Reilly.
Oh, Christ.
And we took a face-off. Doug Jarvis got kicked out. I went in. O'Reilly went in. I beat him on the face-off. Then he chopped me, and I chopped him back. We dropped our gloves, and I knew he was a lefty, and I went, oh, my true. Just as the second one's coming, here comes the left. And immediately, my eyes watered and the blood just started pouring out of my head, my nose, and I was trying to gather myself. I didn't go down. I stayed on my feet, and then D'Amico came in, and they broke it up, and I got to the penalty box, and O'Reilly's going, give me the business. I'm like, and boy, was I wounded. I was a wounded animal. And I sat there, and I said to myself, and I made my decision up that night. It's crazy. I'll never, ever forget this moment, because it's one of those really defining moments in my life. I said, I can never, ever let that happen again. I have to start to use my head. Anybody can stand there and swing like crazy. But what I did from that point on, I always focused on taking the other. When I went into a fight, especially with a bigger guy than me, longer arms, taller, whatever, I always focused on taking their strength away first. So if I knew a guy was a righty, I'm taking it away right away. Wow. And then I'm going to pick my way through the fight from there.
Right.
I'll fight the way I want to fight, not the way they want me to fight.
Right.
And that served me so well during my career. And quite frankly, I didn't get hurt a whole lot. And there were times I really opened up, or someone come back and they're really good with both hands that I could deal with it. But if I fought that wide open style all the time, question of time, you're going to break your eye socket, your jaw, lose your teeth, whatever. And that shakes guys' confidence. And that's tough to come back from. And also shakes the confidence of your teammates. You
right.
Go,
yeah, he's losing it. Yeah.
So if you stand up and fight the guy, a lot of times I fought, I might not have won the fight. The other guy might have got the edge, but I didn't look like I got my ass kicked.
Right.
So you show up, and that has an effect on your teammates. It does.
I refereed the game for years and years and years at different levels, not obviously the NHL level, but it's, some, junior levels and, fast AAA levels. And as an official, I always believed we had to have fighting in the game because it was a release valve. When a game, as an official, you can feel, you can only control so much. You can call a couple of penalties to trying to damper things down, but there's some games where you just know a fight is coming and the fight happens and the pressure comes down. I always thought that was a part of the game. Now they're talking about taking it out of the game. Do you think it should be taken out of the game?
Yeah, listen, I think they'll always keep it in, and maybe they should, just as an outlet for two guys that get so pissed at each other that they don't swing their sticks and hit each other over the head. Like, you want to drop them, go ahead, you've had enough. As far as a tool to use to spook the other team, stuff like that, that's gone. I think it's, people used to think it was stupid we fight and hit helmets. I mean, now they get the visors, it's like they don't let them take. And most guys would probably take them off if they let them, but you get penalized now. So they're making it more difficult. Could the game do without it? I honestly, when I see a fight, I don't mind it.
Yep.
But then I don't even care if I see a fight. I like to see a good hockey game too. And nowadays things have changed a point. I mean, I was having dinner last night, and the owner of the restaurant took me down to see a few current players that were there having dinner. There was 4 of them, but there were 7 guys at the table. And Joe says to him, he says, these 3 new guys from Laval? I said, no, they're 3 guys from the St. Louis Blues. They're friggin' having dinner together the night before a game.
Would that have been unheard of in your day?
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And one of them says to me, "Ooh, we got caught by the wrong guy." And I'm there, whatever.
Well, the stories.
And I proceeded to tell him the story about the time I had a fight at Thursdays with Dave Lumley. And I hit him with a shot. The night before a game, I was with Mark Hunter. We stopped by. He wanted to say hi to his brother real quick, Dave Hunter.
Right.
We walk in. I'm standing there, like, kind of the third wheel. I don't want to talk to anybody. I didn't even want to go in. Hunt said, don't worry. And he's talking to his brother, and I'm standing there. I just gave the nod, And Dave Lumley, who was my roommate in Halifax, came up behind me, and he had a beer, and he poured a couple drops in my head. I turned around, and he's there, and I hit him with a shot, jumped on him, and then all the bouncers jump in, and none of his teammates.
Oh,
he was a smart ass. Anyway, the next day, Big Serge, hey, what is going on with you? Big boy, you're fighting at the bar the night before a game? And I'm like, well, here's the story. And I told him the story. He said, oh, okay, no problem. But
because I read that in the days of like Ferguson, if Ferguson was going out for dinner and he walked in and saw the Leafs in the restaurant, he's like, we're out of here.
Yeah, we would do the same thing back in that day. We wouldn't go in the same place and have dinner. If the guys were in there, we'd be like, oh, okay, see you later.
When do you think that changed and why?
I just, social media. Blame it on social media.
Good one. Yeah,
good one.
Sweep on next.
Now it's like, like they say, back in our day, it was like, do it. Just do it. Here's what I expect of you. Do it. This isn't a developmental league. And the NHL isn't really today either. Yeah. But these kids today, you got to show them. You got to change their diaper. You got to powder their bums.
And you can't yell at them.
God.
This drives me nuts because there's a whole movement in minor hockey and AAA hockey, hockey where guys are trying to get to the NHL. Oh, don't yell at them. Yeah. Don't hurt their feelings.
Yeah, we do our kids a disservice.
I think so too.
The bubble wrap. The helicopter parenting. I just I'm not being the perfect parent here, but it's just like crazy how much you protect the kids and you end up hurting them, I think.
Yeah. In terms of, you mentioned John D'Amico. I'm curious about your relationship with the officials, because especially when there were fewer teams in the league, you see a lot of the same guys all the time. And back then, to me, it seems that there were less officials, and they were in the league longer. D'Amico, Armstrong,
Leon Stickle,
those guys. What kind of relationship did you have with the refs, and did it make a difference who was breaking up the fight? Like D'Amico wasn't a big guy, but he was wily.
Yeah, he was thick,
Oh, he was.
Yeah. Listen, the linesmen were different than the referees. I hated the referees. I loved the linesmen. Yeah. Right? It's like most of the guys like them. But Wayne Bonney was unbelievable with me. D'Amico, they all were they were good. They get in and there were times they helped you. They protected you.
Right.
Because some guys, when it's time to break it up, some guy would just keep going like crazy and never stop, and they were good at that. But referees, I hated Kerry Fraser. I just hated him.
But you became friends with
him. You guys are friends now, aren't you?
It was one of my favorite bits on TSN was when Kerry was on with you.
Yeah,
because you guys, the both of you give each other the gears. You can tell there's a mutual respect there.
It's funny. Like, his is such a great referee, and people don't. Some people, I guess he just rubs the wrong way. The league, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, he should be. He was a great official.
Yeah, because they don't like him for whatever. What's the reason why? Because he's outspoken about some of the things. And he's not a
not a company man.
Not a company man.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it really is.
You can hate him still. Yeah. I get along with Kerry. So I had a pretty good. Bruce Hood. I didn't get along with so much. God rest his soul.
He was a great official.
He hated me because he blamed. Well, not hated. Yeah, he did hate me. He apparently wrote in his book that I started that whole Quebec brawl when it was really Dale Hunter punching Carbonneau in the head. Like, what am I going to do? Go in the locker room? Yeah, it's over. Okay, I'm on the ice. And he said it was all me, and I say it was all him because he let that stuff go.
Yeah. I got to take a break to say thanks to our friends at Matelas Bonheur. Ted, would you like a little lie down?
I would actually, yes. Yeah. I'd like to have a little snooze.
Matelas Bonheur is another family-run business, and I like to tell the story of Norm and his family delivering mattresses in a truck and starting the business in a small store in Saint-Geneviève. That small store, by the way, is still there. And you can go see where the organization got started over 30 years ago. And they're dedicated to a better night's sleep technology, everything in the stores. The stores are designed around a better night's sleep. So nothing in the stores but mattresses, pillows, linens, things that will help you get a good night's sleep. Whether you're looking for a futon or you're looking for one of the jump bed mattresses that you can now order online, or you want to change your mattress. The kids have left and you want a really, really nice mattress. They'll ask you a couple of questions. They'll welcome you warmly, and they won't pressure you. They'll leave you alone to do your shopping and make your own decision with their help. It's a really, really nice shopping experience, the kind of shopping experiences that are getting harder and harder to find. And the locations are not hard to find. There's 18 of them now in the greater Montreal area. You'll be well looked after, I promise. You can start by going to their website, matelasbonheur.ca.
I think sleep technologist could be my next chapter, Terry.
Yeah.
I know a lot about sleep.
I was just saying the joy of the podcast is, that you can.
Well, listen, we never even stood on ceremony when we were on the radio.
No, we didn't. I was often in the hallway on the radio. This guest, this is a very special guest.
This is fun, eh?
Yeah.
What stories?
It's a special get for us because, as you probably heard me say when we started, he's very candid. He's very honest. He's very open. And I like the fact that we've got a little break so we can there's a bunch of things I still want to ask him.
Yeah, me too. Jamie ate that whole donut, by the way.
Did she really?
Yeah. The thing's bigger than she is. We have these gigantic pastries that we got from Non Solo Pane in Dorval. Yeah. And Chris's better half, Jamie, is here. And I said, you'll probably only be able to finish about half of that. And I just went out and checked, all gone.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking for a while.
We have, yeah.
And like I said, there are a few more questions that I want to ask Chris about, including I want to ask him about, Canadiens fans, the new changes, the Tyler Toffoli trade, which when we're recording this just has happened. I don't know if you saw his goal last night in Calgary.
I did not know.
Typical Tyler Toffoli goal. I don't know why they didn't keep him, but
him and his wife really took to Montreal.
Yeah,
they were thrilled to be here.
I felt bad for him because I know you're not going to have any crying parties for a National Hockey League player, but he always said he was really looking forward to the Bell Center on a Saturday night. The roaring crowds.
He got it.
Did he?
No, but I mean, he got the whole CH thing. He understood. He understood how special it is to play here.
Because of COVID, he never really got the full
experience.
Experience, no. And I felt bad for him because they loved Montreal. His wife was on social media. They loved being here.
Yeah, you still haven't told us about how you ended up on a line with Carbonneau and Gainey. Didn't you score 30 goals one season on that line?
20.
20?
21.
Oh, okay. So I got that wrong too then.
Wow, Christ, I got his number wrong, for God's sake.
He's going to leave here going, those two fucking assholes.
I'm used to the no respect shot. That's okay. Yeah, those two Hall of Famers had the distinct pleasure of playing alongside me. They helped me immensely. You talk about how, I was able to score those 21 goals, but playing alongside them, there was a lot of communication between us. We became really familiar with each other's tendencies on the ice. We're a very, very good checking line. And I love what Ken Linsman told me. He said, honestly, I think it was one of the best, if not the best, checking lines ever.
Wow.
Because of the mix of what you had. You had that centerman who could make plays, who was great in the face-off circle. He was a great defender. Bob Gainey, being touted as the best hockey player in the world by Tinkenoff. I don't know about that, but Bob was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Body checker, leader, score goals, defend well. And then, I could play the game, but I could fight. I could check. And we had a really good mix that worked well for so many years. And those guys, like I said, they helped me to mature as a player in a big way. And, communication was a big part of that. So, I owe them, like the organization, a debt of gratitude because they helped me a whole lot.
Was it Lemaire who put that line together?
Yeah, it was Jacques Lemaire.
Yeah.
Put it together.
Is there any way to put into words what it's like to win a Stanley Cup? All Canadian kids see it, watch the cup going over the head, and because the post, right after the Stanley Cup is won, the interviews are always the same. I can't believe it. Is there any way to describe what that feels like?
Just like a tremendous relief, a great a feeling of accomplishment that you went into a season and with the objective of doing that, and then coming together as a group through the pain, the agony, the fun times, all those things together, and you have that common goal as a group, and you're bound together forever because you achieved that as a group. And that to me is the most incredible feeling when I look back at it. I really had a difficult time the final game. I didn't play. And, today, if you got called up, you throw your uniform at the end of the game, you go out there with the cup and get your pictures taken with it. I had a friggin' suit on. I didn't
realize that. You didn't play in the clinching game. I did not
I tore
realize
ligaments
that.
in my ankle. And my ankle was so swollen I could hardly get it in my boot. But I got in my boot. They numbed me before the warm-up, and they watched me in the warm-up. And Big Serge afterwards come down and he said, hey, big boy, you can't skate. And I'll be fine. I can fight. I can do what I got to do. I'll be there. Nope. You can't play. You can't. I was devastated.
Wow.
I was devastated.
Yeah.
Devastated. Now everybody's like, oh, you helped us get there. You did this all season and all through the playoffs. You were such a big part. But I wasn't on the ice for that. Like sweating.
Yeah.
Jumping over the boards or being on the ice, the final whistle, Instead, I was up in a box with the wives getting shit-faced. It hurt me.
Yeah.
Does it still, or is there still an element of regret there, or
just a little bit? But I've gotten past it. But when I look back, and I look at that, geez, I wish I could have been. I've gotten through it, but it hurt. It hurt for a long time.
Well, you know what? Nobody remembers that. I don't remember that, and I was covering the team that year. I don't remember that. I know you do. But nobody else does. You're still a Stanley Cup champion for everybody else.
Yeah.
It is the toughest trophy to win in sports.
There's no question.
Hey, no question about it.
Like, it is a battle, a slog. Man, I started the playoffs, I think I was 201, and I was 193 at the end. I had a black eye. I was limping. Like I come back from, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I was all sucked up,
What's your take, Chris, on, because like I told you, I listened to you every day. I was always in the car at that time of the day when I was still working. And what's your take on Canadiens fans? Because Canadiens fans are, they're super passionate, they're super knowledgeable, yada, yada, yada. But the more I hear Canadiens fans and some of the dopey, idiotic things that all the general managers who call in radio talk shows say, I think to myself, are they the greatest fans in the world? Because some of the things you were kind and gracious to everybody who called, but I could hear your eyes rolling a couple of times. Like, what's the nature of the fans, and how tough is it on the players to listen to that constant whinging that never ends?
Listen, I don't know how many of the real fans, when you think about the people who go to the games too, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some in there. And then the fans, and it was different when we played. When we played, we don't read the paper. Meanwhile, every stall in the locker room has one when you go in there in the morning. And then guys would come up, to Carbon and say, "What's this say? What's this say?" And
The journal.
yeah. So
That's funny.
that's what we had to deal with: the French paper and the English paper.
Right.
And now they got to deal with, like you
Social
said at
media.
the beginning, everybody has their 2 cents, and they're gonna say, and so I think it's a little more, and it can be overwhelming. And you can say, well, we don't look at it, but guys, they're alone, they're at home. Yeah. What are people saying? Who likes when someone says bad shit about them? No one does. Yeah. Like, you don't like to be called out. I remember, and I was so young and naive when I first got here. I remember Red Fisher wrote an article, and he said that I went after Alan Hanksleben. He hit Lafleur on a shift, and I went out the next shift. I went after him, fought him, give it to him, and then Red Fisher wrote the next day. And this is how young and impressionable I was, that the Canadiens, the headline was, "Canadiens don't need a guy like Chris Nilan."
Oh, God.
And I'm like, I'm out of here.
Wow.
Right?
And Red Fisher wrote it.
Yeah, but I didn't know who Red was then.
Yeah.
Like, Red liked that. He, he walked around, never talked to rookies, right?
Yeah.
And
That's
he was dying. Yeah. He did it because the rookie would always go to Bob Gainey and say, "Hey, who's that guy?"
Yeah.
Always did. That was his game. But Red and I became very good friends over the years. And, he wrote that. But the retort to that was Rocket Rashad was writing in the Star at the time. It was like 81, something like that. And he said Rocket Nilan does belong on the, and he wrote an article about me, and I don't have it, but I remember it, and I was like, "Rocket, are you kidding me? He was Rocket Nilan."
How do you like them apples, Red?
Yeah, but it's just funny, like, you don't like it when people write the negative stuff, and as I get older, it's like, okay, whatever.
Rolls off your back, but I
takes a while.
My friends say to me, he can cry in his contract. I feel bad for Carey Price. I just do. I can't recall a Montreal Canadian taking the kind of heat, grief / criticism /
Yeah, I don't know if it's with Carey. Listen, he'd been an incredible goaltender here. Yeah. I don't think they've ever given him really a team to really,
they have not.
And he's certainly done his job.
Yeah.
He signed a contract that everybody would have signed in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And it ended up, with that comes a lot of pressure, but, then you look at his injuries, you look at the time he played, and, every year he was hurt or something was going on. He had chronic fatigue one year. He had some off-ice issues another year. This happened, that happened. We know what happened recently. And I think people get a little, because he does not come across as lovey-dovey in the media,
No, he
doesn't. I honestly, I just don't. Like Brendan Gallagher, you talk about Gallagher, he connects to the fan base. Yeah. And listen, it can get tiring, but never once is that kid lashed out or denied, talking to talking in the most difficult times.
Yeah, he comes out when he knows it's going to be shitty.
Yeah, and Bob Gainey was really like that. He, but it's not easy, but. Somebody in that position, like a Carey Price, who the fan base loved and adored, and he's supposedly a leader on this team, and he's the backbone, and, he could make a little more effort to be a little more open to...
Engaged.
Yeah, engaged with the fan base.
What do you think of the changes? Like, what? You really didn't get a chance, I don't think, to talk about the new guys who were driving.
I don't know. They got a new GM?
Yeah, they got a guy.
Yeah,
There's a guy.
Listen, Jeff Gorton came along. They grabbed him, snapped him up. I think it was a great move. What? Put en français? None, right? But when you look at what he's done, and you look what he did in Boston. He stepped in for Mike O'Connell. He drafted Phil Kessel, Brad Marchand. He traded for Chara. He traded for Tuukka Rask. And that wasn't good enough to give him the job, so they went out and got Chiarelli. So he ends up going to New York. Look what he did in New York. He's in New York. He ends up bringing Panarin in. Boom. You know, they were going through that reset, not a rebuild, a reset.
Right.
We're going to get rid of some contracts, but they did, and it didn't take too long to turn it around. He was responsible for that. And then here he is now, going to have an opportunity to paint a whole new picture. You know, yeah, they've given him the brush, and he has some colors, a couple of colors to work with. Now he's got to add more, and you got to be able to take that old core that's here and ship them out and get assets, unknown assets, by the way, and try and rebuild this organization on the go. And you know, they're up against the cap. They got to square some of those money issues, Weber, all that. Hopefully they can get a team like Arizona to take that money, you know, because some of those teams only spend to the floor, not the ceiling. Right. And so they got to get creative in that. But I like what I see. I like that they brought Hughes in. I know some people aren't happy because he's not a real good Chenu, you know. Oh, well. And I love Martin St. Louis. I do. I love that. Now, everybody said, oh, Gretzky couldn't do the coach, and this one, Lemieux, and Martin St. Louis is a Hall of Famer. But that kid earned every step of the way. He earned his way in the NHL. He wasn't that gifted, talented, easy. This is easy for me. So he had to work his way there, which I think is going to help him immensely as far as a coach, because he's intelligent when it comes to the game, really intelligent. And I think a young coach going with the young core, like why is people have question in this move? Do you want to bring Alan Vigneault in again? Do you want to bring Terry in back? Do you want to go get some guy from junior? We just had a guy from junior, like, you know, who was, you know, he coached the World Junior Championships and had success. That's great, but, you know, here's a guy coming in. He gets instant respect as a Hall of Famer and who he is. Now he's going to earn that respect. And I think for these young guys, man, I think it's a breath of fresh air for them.
You've been really generous with your time, and I know Jamie's waiting in the other room. We won't keep you much longer. There are a couple of things I want to cover. We want to talk about family, just ask a couple of questions about family. Montreal, Boston, a couple of other things, and then we'll let you go. But before I do that, let's say a thank you to our friends at Merson. Ted and I have told the story every podcast about how we both don't know anything that has anything to do with cars. I know there are plugs in it, and I know there's gas in it. And I know
for now.
Windows and a steering wheel, but that's all I know about cars. And in the initial days when I started to drive and buy cars, I got taken everywhere I went. You know, people would say, your massifilator is broken and it's going to be $1,000. And I never knew what to do. And somebody said, you got to go see the Mersons. And Ted and I like to talk about the Mersons' honesty. That's a great story you tell about the waiting room, Ted.
Well, in the waiting room, if you you go down to Merson and your car's getting worked on, and you sit in the waiting room and you just watch what goes on. And what goes on is the service manager, who is now Mark, used to be Charlie. He'll come out, and if you eavesdrop, you'll hear things like, okay, we've changed your tires. You've probably got 10,000 K left on those tires, so keep an eye on the odometer. Your brakes are good probably for another 5,000 K. Like, they tell you up front and honestly what shape your car is in. They don't come out and they go, whoa! boy,
Hope you're sitting down.
This is gonna run you. No, they're a third, and they're going to be probably a fourth generation family business in a tough business, and in a business which, as you say, you don't always find people who are going to be on the up and up with you, and that's the reason why they've lasted as long as they have, and why they have third and fourth generation customers, because they're honest. You want to get treated right with your car? Go to Merson.
MersonAuto.com. It's always fascinated me, Chris, that you ended up in Montreal. I mean, you're such a Boston kid. You know, you're born and raised there, hard scrabble upbringing, you know, like real typical Boston family, Boston friends, you know, like I remember going to Boston and thinking, I wonder who I could get restaurant recommendations from, and I texted you and you gave me like a whole bunch of them and all in the North End. And yet you're like a gars de chez nous. You're like a Montrealer.
Je parle un peu français, monsieur. Je suis très content d'être ici avec vous, mes amis de Montréal.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah.
I can parlez-vous a little.
Yeah.
But I guess if the one thing I really wish I got it better than I did. It was so difficult to learn. I just looked at so many books and looked night I'd be reading.
Well, the fact of the matter is, as Anglophones, we can still live and work and go about our daily lives in English in Montreal because the city is bilingual. If you threw you or me into a Chicoutimi, we'd have it in 3 months because we'd have no choice.
I was there once when I was young, and I had a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah,
Mario Tremblay and Guy Carbonneau's golf tournament. I tell you, that was my baptism.
What is it we say? Les bons temps roulent.
Laissez les bons temps rouler. Let the good times roll.
But I'll tell you, coming from Boston, I come up here, and it was right at the beginning and the height of all the companies leaving.
It was the first big exodus.
Yeah.
What
after the PQ got elected.
Yeah, the PQ, and what would they call it? They were talking about separation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And
the referendum, around the time of the first referendum. Yeah.
And here I am, this young kid, streetwise, all that, blah blah blah, and I get up here, and growing up in Boston, when I did in the '60s and '70s. There were a lot of race riots, and Boston being known as one of the cities, people say it's a racist city and blah, blah, blah. There were a lot of animosities between white and black people in Boston, and it showed. There were riots. It was crazy. The busing issue, everything. So I grew up, and I was in the middle of that. And when I got up here, this is how naive I was. But first of all, I got in the plane to come to training camp, and I thought I might as well have been going to Vancouver. I've never been on a plane. And by the way, how times have changed. I had my skates with me in my seat. I went under my seat, right?
No kidding.
Yeah. So, and I got here, and all of a sudden this referendum comes. I mean, what the hell is going on? I could not understand. No word of a lie, why all these white people couldn't get along.
Wow. Interesting.
And then the longer I was here, I understood, the preservation of culture, language, they don't want to lose that, the French people in Quebec, and I don't blame them in a lot of ways. And I understand it. But it took me a while to really get entrenched and understand the culture, and I didn't right away. And that's how I looked at it, and that changed certainly over the years, the longer I was here.
You just feel at home here.
Yeah, I do. I always was accepted by the people, the fans, and quite frankly, the French population.
Yeah.
And, they said, as long as you try, and I did. I never picked it up like Bob Gainey picked up French, or Larry, but, I picked my way through, and I can understand a little bit more than I speak, but.
Wouldn't you like to spend more time at the organization?
Yeah, I would. They've hired ambassadors over the years.
Yeah.
They've never hired an English one, by the way.
Excuse me. Yeah.
I would have loved to. I have a passion and love for the organization, for the opportunity they gave me, like no one, like I do. My dad was the same. My dad, never wanted me to come to Boston. I never wanted to leave here, by the way, and I ended up having to leave, and it was probably it almost broke me.
Yeah.
It almost broke me. I don't know how guys do it.
It was interesting to me that it didn't affect, well, at the time it did, but you and Sir Savard are friends.
Yeah. Well, it affected it the short term, but, because we're past that.
You must have hated him that day.
Yeah. I still look back, and his best friend, Claude St. Jean, owned the restaurant across the river. They were always at the track together. They were really tight, smoked cigars together all the time. He passed away, had a massive heart attack, and we were in Hartford, and I had it out with Perron about something he said to me, made an inference that I wasn't fighting enough, and I gave him some crap in front of the guys. He didn't like that, and we went to Buffalo, and I was in, wasn't on the line with Gainey and Carbonneau. I had a different colored practice jersey on. And I went back to the room, and I knew something was up. I was like, I had a bad feeling inside me. And Jacques Leperrier called me and said, "Hey, Knuckle, the coach, he wants to talk with you." And I said, "Hey, Lappy, listen, I love you and I respect you, but," I said, "if the fucking coach wants to talk to me, tell him to get on the fucking phone and call me." And then Perron called me. He said, "Hey, Chris, coach, Puddinghead." And Puddinghead called me, and he said, I said, "What's up?" He said, I want you to come to my room. I want to talk about your ice time." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll be right down." Give me the room number. I come. The door's open. I walk in. He's standing there. He said, "Serge is on the phone." I'm like, "You fucking coward."
Yeah.
And anyway, so Serge said he traded me. He traded me to St. Louis. And I told him I'm not going to St. Louis. I don't want to go to St. Louis. Well, you have to. I said, "I don't want to go to St. Louis." And he said, "Well, where do you want to go?" And I said, "Boston." He said, "I can't do that. I can't." And I know, talking to people before, that Phil Esposito wanted me in New York, and it would be close to Boston, close to home. And I said, "Yeah, call Phil and see if he wants me in New York." And boom, right away they did the deal, and I ended up going to New York. Ron Caron wanted me in St. Louis.
Was it weird to pull on a Rangers sweater? It must be weird.
Yeah, it must be weird. I hated it.
Eh?
And I played against the Canadiens.
Oh,
I hated it.
It must have been
I
so
actually
weird.
broke my arm at the Forum.
Wow.
Yeah, that sucked. I went over Patrick head first into the post, and I snapped my ulnar bone.
Yeah.
Miserable. But, yeah, I had a real hard time with that. Then I went to Boston. My first year there was great, and then I broke my ankle playing basketball. And then the next year it was getting tough on me, and it was hard at the end.
Yeah.
I knew in my head I'm losing that dreaded half step. You do,
you
but
feel
you
it,
fight
eh?
it. Yeah, I said I can't say okay. I was doing everything I could to ward it off,
Right.
and I couldn't. But it sucks.
Tell us
That
about
part sucks.
your upbringing, because you had such a close family, and family's important to you, and you were close to your mom and dad.
Yeah, really close. And, Christ, they did, they were married my mother was pregnant at 17, my mom and dad, and 18 they got married, and, they had to work for everything. And my father, when I look back at what he did, he's an amazing man. All of a sudden, young family at that age, went to night school. He was a Green Beret. He jumped out of planes, did all that like crazy. Like, he did everything he could to make his family succeed, put food on the table, clothe us, give us a place to live. And, hockey. He took me skating my first time. I'll never forget it, on a puddle in a parking lot on the end of our street. And I remember the first time I ever went out, I might have been 4 or 5 years old, and it was like I friggin' loved it. I had two biggest skates on me, and I bombing around, falling down, getting up. I loved it. And then, he helped me when it came time to go play hockey, get me in the league. He drove me around, took me everywhere. My parents were huge, really support for me. But that doesn't go without saying there were a lot of, my dad and I had a lot of times where we locked horns, very, my dad, his discipline was key. There was some, times when my father would use his hands to get his point across, and I had a lot of resentment, and we butted heads a lot. But I had immense love for him. He was my hero, but I didn't understand that as a kid, and even as an adult, I didn't in a lot of ways until I was able to understand it. Until I was able to really look at my dad as a little boy and what his life was like, I wasn't able to get through that part, But I was, and I did, and it was the best thing that ever happened. We had an unbelievable relationship at the end, one-on-one, and my mom been sick for the last 12 years with dementia, gradually getting worse. He took care of her, never put her in a place. Wasn't gonna, didn't, and it eventually killed him, and it was sad. I kind of knew it was gonna happen that way. He finally, my buddy who's right now fighting for his life, put an addition on, just finished last week. He was putting a bathroom downstairs so my parents could live on the first floor, because we only had one bathroom in the house upstairs. And he, put that addition on, and my poor dad never got to use the toilet. It's terrible.
Wow.
He couldn't wait, and they were so excited about it, and they were going to move the bed downstairs and never having to go up again and down their age. But, so far we've kept my mom in the house. She has 24-hour care. My dad was an amazing man, big supporter of mine. I remember, like I said, the times he used to come to games, and and then the Stanley Cup. He was here for the Stanley Cup. He rode in the parade on the bus the Habs had for the wives and family members. It was awesome. Like, he loved coming to Montreal. He loved it. Loved going out to dinner and the restaurant, staying at the Manoir Lemoyne, and cooking Sunday dinners. When he was up here, I was living in the hotel. I was living in the apartment at the time, and he had everybody be up from home. They all came to the Stanley Cup parade. My brother, my sisters, my brother-in-law, who's deceased now, Danny, he was a cop. He got killed in line of duty. My sister brought up 5 kids. My father was huge in helping her. They were between, the time he got killed, they were between 2 and 11. My father was huge in supporting my sister. We all were there for her in a big way. And, she never remarried, nothing. And just, I certainly close to my family. My brother, was in the Navy for years. He loved seeing the success I had here. And it was tough for them to watch me go through the difficult times. But, hey, a lot of people ask me, do you regret that? I don't have any regrets. I mean, that's my life. That's the way my life went. Whether I wanted to go that way or not, it went that way. And
we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. There's a picture of you and your dad that's popped up on social media a few times, and I was saying to Terry, I've seen that picture. I've never met your dad, but when I look at that picture, I go, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Well,
like, that picture speaks 1,000 words.
I don't know which one that is. Now, I know there's a few out there. There's one with my father-in-law, and there's one with my dad. There's one with my father-in-law with the Stanley Cup.
No, it's you. I think it's you and your dad, and it looks like you're at home, maybe in the kitchen, and there's just something about that picture that just speaks volumes. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is he was part of the greatest generation, as they're called, right? That's and that character, that kind of man,
wonderful guy,
served the country and worked hard, and honesty and all of the tributes that you've talked about.
He had integrity.
Integrity.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
was certainly, you know, I don't know if the one you're talking about, Ted, is within the kitchen. He's cutting roast beef, and I'm over his shoulder.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not too sure. But I look at that, and it's just so obviously you're a dad. Among other things. But he looks tough as nails.
Yeah,
he just looks tough as nails.
Yeah. It rubbed off, no question.
This is going to be our longest episode for sure.
Yeah,
and it's been a great joy. And I'm not. Oh, here we go. Look at what Poseidon has done here. This is.
Oh, yeah, that's
top
the
row.
other guy.
Top row far left.
That one.
Yeah,
that one there. Yeah. There, right on
my daughter Colleen.
Yeah,
that's the Barry Beck night.
Yeah,
imagine we just talked about that.
Yeah,
that's my father's Stanley Cup ring. I gave him the Stanley Cup ring.
Wow.
And then Serge gave me another one after.
Is that right? Oh, really?
They're the only two.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
My brother.
You look at you with the cup. You're quite the baby, eh?
Yeah.
The baby face Chris. Yeah. This has been a great joy, and I can't thank you enough, Chris. I know everybody and their brother's been calling you for interviews and stuff, so I'm deeply grateful to you.
Yeah,
really honored
you guys
that
are awesome. Known you certainly for years.
Yeah.
I always love listening to both years. Ted, funny, good stuff on the radio all those years, and you, Terry. I remember back on Green Ave when I first come up here. I remember I'd come on your show years ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. And I appreciate it. But listen, when you trust people and you're comfortable with people, it's easy to do.
Maybe when you're a big podcast star, you can have us on your show.
Yeah, for sure.
Good luck with it. I hope it gets.
Yeah,
I hope you get it.
Trying
up
to
and
find my
soon.
way again. Like I said, we'll see.
It's time for us to wrap it up and thank the folks at Jaguar Land Rover Laval and the UPS store, Merson's, Matelas Bonheur, and Poseidon. Very
gentlemen.
patient. Thank you.
Oh, no.
And
my pleasure.
Good picture graphic.
Yeah, nice job.
Excellent.
Well done.
Excellent.
That's what a good producer does.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Good stuff. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover Laval, where the luxury is unmistakably British. But nobody wears a top hat or a monocle